I wanted to begin this meeting reading the statement that this Board of Education and its leadership team issued on May 30th. And then we'll open the floor to the signatories of this statement if any of you would like to provide additional comments. The events of the past week, from the senseless death of George Floyd to the protests around the country and in our city, have left us heartbroken and frustrated. As we are sure our fellow Columbus City School colleagues would agree, our hearts are filled with sadness, anger, and disgust at yet another brutal attack of a member of the African American community. As one of the largest urban school districts in the country, Columbus City Schools must lead the way in spreading hope by educating our young people, not just with the knowledge of content, but most importantly of diversity, inclusiveness, and humanity. It is our responsibility to create the change agents of tomorrow through the education of today. That means we must equip our students with the tools necessary to understand and overcome systematic racism by teaching culturally competent and historically accurate curriculum, especially about the city that they will one day lead. We must also be forward-thinking and proactive in addressing the inequities and disparities that persist within our school district. Equity and cultural competency are priorities for Columbus City Schools and the Board of Education. Even though the world may appear scary, ugly, and without hope, now is the time for us to lead with love, compassion, and education. Columbus City Schools is committed to working together as one community to be part of the solution for a better tomorrow. And I would just like to say that I believe we have the leadership team in place to help continue to move us forward, to demonstrate action on this statement, to really conquer issues of disparities and inequity in our system of education. And by addressing those things in our system, we can be part of the holistic solution to show change and to demonstrate change across all systems of government. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor to any member who signed on to this, if you would like to provide any additional brief thoughts and comments. Board Member Brown.
Thank you. And I certainly stand by the statement that we've issued, and happy to do that. And at the same time, action is what counts. Proclamations, resolutions, and other statements are nice, but they alone accomplish nothing productive. They may help the speaker or writer feel good that they've done something, or they may help garner political support, but that's a long way from addressing the fundamental issues. Action is what counts. If we truly believe that all people are created equal and have equal fundamental rights, we must identify and take the steps necessary to take our community and our society to a better place. The changes needed are both large and small, fundamental and superficial, grand and commonplace, basic and complex. But unless and until we identify the actions that we must take and take those actions, all we're doing is talking.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. Anyone else like to provide thoughts? Board Member Ragland.
Thank you, President Adair, and thank you, Board Member Brown and the rest of my colleagues for signing on to this. I believe that our students are the change agents of now. Quite frankly, while I was there at a protest on Friday, I saw a lot of CCS young people participating in these demonstrations. And they were doing it in a peaceful manner. doing it and speaking and using their voices. And somehow those voices ended up being co-opted by louder, stronger, older voices. And that is what I feel is a shame with this. For me, the systemic racism that exists within our city, within our nation, can only be broken down systemically. And that is a wealth building function. I do not prioritize the work being done in working with our police departments and law enforcement agencies over the systemic wealth building that needs to happen for Black people specifically. The first slave was brought here in 1619. That was a wealth building enterprise, and everything that followed allowed for us to be in the situation that we are in right now. The free labor of my ancestors got us to what is happening in the streets around our country today. And so, as we address the needs of the people who are out in rightful indignation protesting, this needs to be about the resources that we have at our disposal, specifically going towards the creation of economic justice for Black people specifically. Otherwise, as Board Member Brown said, it is all talk. So show me the money. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Ragland. Any other comments? Dr. Pierce.
So first I want to take a moment. Today is Blackout Tuesday. For all of our young people who may be watching but have chose to black out on social media today, know that I wear my black in solidarity to stand with you all. I see you out in the streets protesting very peacefully. Know that I support you in that. Oftentimes, individuals look at the violence, the frustrations, the emotions that are expressed and say, this isn't what protest is supposed to look like. As a scholar in this area, know that the protest that you are doing, sometimes the violence that happens, the riots, the destruction, is your voice. Historically, communities have done that. That is a part of the tools that you have to use to get governmental agencies and institutions to recognize what you are feeling and to take action to improve your lived experience. Also, I'd like to say that this afternoon, I attended a press conference, and there are a number of governmental institutions and agencies that are adopting resolutions and indicating that racism is a public health crisis. At this time, I'd like to stand in solidarity with all of our elected officials in noting that, in fact, racism is a public health crisis. But I will echo the words of our president, President Adair, in indicating that we on this board have the leaders that are standing in the vanguard, prepared, currently taking action to not just create a better future, but to create a better present for our students, our staff. We are currently working on an equity policy. Our superintendent, I'm sure, has announced several times over that we will have a director or chief of equity coming into our district. Family, community, we understand the work that needs to be done. We're doing that work. We want to continue to partner with you, with the stakeholders, with individuals that feel that they have been marginalized, isolated, and kept out of the decision-making room, that the door is shut. Know that with your Columbus City Schools, the door is open. We stand with you. We fight for you. And we join with other, again, nonprofits, businesses, faith-based, community agents that are dedicated to taking the transformational action that's necessary to create true, authentic change in our community.
Thank you, Dr. Pierce. Any other comments? Thank you. And as Dr. Pierce said, and as you've heard
Madam
this,
President, if I may.
yes, I'm sorry, your hand.
No, forgive me. I thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, and I will express my sentiments in brevity. I had the opportunity to participate in some of the peaceful marches over the past several days. I've had the opportunity to have my family with me and my own children be able to have the opportunity to express their concerns and their anxieties about the happenings of the day. Needless to say, for all of us, it has been a very tough week. And I feel like today, understanding today is only Tuesday, it's been pretty tough up until now. With all that being stated, there's something I really want to share with so many of us who are harboring our feelings of anger, harboring our feelings of hurt, anxiety, and dismay. As an African-American man, as a Black man and father and husband in this city, this state, and this country, I've experienced interaction with law enforcement, whether it was as a child riding a bicycle in a neighborhood and being stopped by the police and asked, "Is this your bike? Where'd you get it from? Is your bike registered with the city?" And having to show these credentials as a new kid to a neighborhood, to being involved in things as a teenager out of anger and out of resentment that I may not should have been involved in and didn't make the right decisions and experienced interaction with law enforcement that way. I understand that the heavy hand of law is one that is needed at times to maintain order. When those folks are out there wearing the garments that they're wearing to protect themselves and maintain order, they're coming to that job, to that work with a mindset. If I have on a face shield and bodyguard, I'm coming to that job with a mindset based on my uniform. It is incumbent of us, if we're going to maintain peace, to understand that fundamentally as a means to protect ourselves and others and our property so that we don't make the mistake of destroying things and totally doing away with a message of peace that it's going to take to address this situation. To those who are really struggling with their feelings right now, and I am one of them, the only remedy to it, to be quite honest with you, is love, is joy, is peace, is forbearance, is a sense of understanding that in order to do this work, there's some long suffering that comes with it. It cannot be done with anger, with envy, with division and factions. It can't be done this way. It cannot. We cannot be impactful. We cannot make the statement that we want to make to the community, and we cannot get the work that's needed to be done. I'm really excited at the fact that I have the opportunity in this day and time to be a part of this movement, to make sure that Black folks here in the city of Columbus and anywhere in this nation state of the United States of America have the opportunity to not only have voice, but impact. I thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Cole. Board Member Beckerly.
Thank you. I guess, in the category of keeping it real, since my students, if they taught me nothing else, they taught me the importance of that. I have to say that I continue to be worried. There's been a lot of wonderful discussion and talk and appearing to come together. I'm afraid, as Eric said, unless it's followed by action, it's just going to be more of the same. I'm really concerned that unless we start talking about demilitarizing the police and truly putting communities in charge of their own policing, all of this talk of reform is not going to truly be what we need to change things. I worry about this pivot that kept happening both on the national level and on the local level where, there's all this discussion that, peaceful protesters are okay, but it's those few bad apples or it's the insurgents or the instigators. And then it almost seems like that becomes a justification for the very policing practices that led to our congresswoman, our city council president, and our county commissioners getting maced. And that was not part of this other thing that we seem to pivot to. So all of that is sort of churning around and it has me concerned. And in the category of keeping it real, I continue to worry that the white majority, the people in power, they don't get it. And they don't understand what it's like to send your children out into the world and be concerned that they might have an altercation with the police where they could end up dead. And I truthfully, I have 2 boys and I have not had to worry about that with them. I don't know how to convey that understanding. But I think it's real. And in the category of not being as brief as I should be, but sharing a story that brought it home to me in a way that I couldn't ever, no matter how much I tried to understand, I couldn't understand. There was a former student of mine with whom I stayed close after I stopped teaching in high school. And I mean, we continue to be close. He's like family now. But one of the things I was doing was teaching him how to drive. And the day after Philando Castile was shot in Minneapolis in front of his girlfriend and his girlfriend's child, the beloved cafeteria manager. I was so shaken because Michael was in the car with me and I realized I couldn't protect him. And it was such a foreign feeling to a white woman who was used to not having to worry about this thing. And I don't know how we're going to solve that problem, but that fear, there was just, I'm sure, a hint of what Black parents are feeling when they send their kids out into the world. It stuck with me. And I now have a biracial stepson. Biracial stepson and 2 biracial stepdaughters. And now I worry about them too. But it's real and we need to keep talking about it in order for people to understand.
Thank you, Board Member Thackerley. And I think what you said is correct, and I think it's something that this board is willing to do, and is to have hard discussions, is to talk about the things that are real and important and will make systematic change, to address equity, to address racism, to address hatred, to address the history. To help our students understand, learn, and understand how to take on what they're going to face. And I believe we have the leadership in place to do that. It's critical, and we are at a critical point. And even before this happened, I mean, this was happening, right? This has been happening. But before it came to this head over these past few days, this board has been leading with action, and in these past months, since this new board came in January, we have been moving at a rapid pace. We will continue to move, and we will continue to ensure change and ensure people are being held accountable. I also want to say, and I want to say this loud and clear to the members of our team, whether you are full-time, part-time, whether you are a student, this organization will not tolerate any type of discrimination or harassment. We are an equal opportunity employer. We have policies in place that will be enforced. And we certainly do not want any harassment or discrimination towards our students or among students. So know that and understand that those policies are important and essential to how we work as an organization. And with that, we will move on with our agenda.